I've hit the record and the mic is working, I guess. 1 second, no. Oh, yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Project Khichdi, a podcast about stuff in music that we like and that we think you should know about. Yeah, there is no particular agenda for this. This is just a conversation between me. My name is Aditya.
And my name is Robin.
Yeah. And the both of us love music, and the both of us just love talking about it. And yeah, we have different perspectives and different tastes, but it all meshes together really well, and we love and it makes for some really interesting conversations on music. So without further ado, welcome to Project Khichdi. This is just going to be like the way this works is going to be, we pick up a topic, each of us does a bit of, not necessarily research, but we find something we're interested in talking about, and we do a bit of reading, formulate our thoughts, and start a conversation. So let's just get into it. Robin, you had something you wanted to talk about, right?
Yes. I'll be talking about PHONK before the recording of this episode. Like today only, in the sometime around the afternoon or something, I actually took a deep dive into the PHONK playlist that Spotify has. I have been listening to PHONK here and there in general also, but today specifically for this episode, I kind of listened to it for a much more prolonged period of time. Opinions on that a little later. But before that,
even I sat down and listened to this. I mean, I Robin, and you showed this to me. I did not know what PHONK was. I know what funk is, but PHONK apparently is something different. Yeah. And so I checked it out. Robin said, I think it's the same Spotify playlist we're talking about, which is just all this funk music, and I'm sitting there. I don't understand a thing. I'll say it straight up. I don't get the genre. I don't understand it, but like I have done a little bit of kind of, not a deep dive, but I've read about it, and it's actually interesting. So yeah, I think take it away, Robin.
Yeah. So funny you mentioned that you got confused with funk, because to read you an excerpt from the Wikipedia page, the first line there says not to be confused with funk. So that's an interesting little detail.
My bad. Sorry, I should have read the instruction manual.
Yeah, well, I have. So I'll read you excerpts from here. It's a subgenre of hip hop and trap music directly inspired by 1990s Memphis rap. Memphis rap. Well, Aditya, we were talking about Memphis rap. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Memphis rap is for those who don't know it very clearly?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'll just say, okay, so there are dark genres of music. I mean, there's so much, across genres. You have it in rock, you have it in even in rap itself. And when I say dark, I mean like negatively themed. But this was new for me. This actually broke, not a record. This is just completely new for me. Like, this is dark, but on a whole other level. This is satanic.
Kind of. Yeah, it's like very morbid. And there are videos on YouTube that you will find about Memphis rap. There's this YouTuber called Tuv, T-U-V. You could check him out if you want to have an in-depth explanation of what Memphis or like similar Memphis rap and similar genres are about. But from what I have heard, my limited understanding of Memphis rap, it's extremely violent and like, sort of, it was tied to gangster groups and all that, in the sense of they would literally sample sounds that they recorded in gang wars or like scenes of violence, and then they will somehow sample that into their instrumentation and then rap on top of it. So it's in that sense very, very
okay. Hold up. This is, so you're saying you're in the middle of a gang war, okay? Some dudes pissed you off, you got a gun to their head. So the dude who's about to be shot is like, hey bro, like can you give me 1 second? Can I just record this? I'm gonna put my phone down right here, then you can shoot me.
Memphis rap has existed since the 1990s. So like at that time, you didn't even have those smartphones, right?
Alright,
So I
fine,
wonder
like,
did they
dial-up
did
internet
they
or
like
whatever.
did they like carry these recording equipment in the
Yeah,
microphones
it's just like
and shit in their
the
gang wars?
predecessor to
I
the
don't.
Zoom recorder. Just one huge. It's not. No. It's not a recorder. You had some DJ there with like two turntables and like one old ass dynamic mic just standing in front of it. Like, alright, guys, you can fight in 3, 2, 1, and like it's just like a bloodbath in front of this person. But they don't care. They're just like doing their shit, and then that sound is sampled and then turned into a track. That has gotta be the wildest shit ever.
Dude,
This
I
is
don't
more.
know how the logistics of this work.
This is more. This is
I-
crazier
if-
than people recording fart sounds and then making tracks out of it. I've heard dubstep made out of fart sounds. This trumps that.
I would imagine this could be like, okay, this is just speculation, okay, don't quote me on this, or think like you can take this with a pinch of salt, but I'm guessing that this would be more when one gang overpowers the other gang and like it's done, like
Wait, so it's like humiliation.
kind of like, yeah, it's like a KO moment in some ways. Okay, that's a very bad analogy, but point being that when they are not fighting anymore, when there's a clear victor and now like the final act of violence is about
Oh
to
my
happen,
god, that's
then
gotta be so
probably they do
sad.
it like in a celebratory way. They probably record it. I don't know.
That's gotta be so sad, dude.
Purely assumption, purely speculation.
No,
You can
like,
take this with a pinch of salt.
that's gotta
I'm
be
just-
like
because I can't see this working out in any other way. I can't imagine people running around with recorders when like they're being shot at. So
yeah, like,
yeah,
and imagine
I mean-
how it's gotta be for like the person who's on the receiving end. Like, first off, you get beaten like to pulp, and I mean, assuming you weren't killed in the fight, you're just sitting there drinking, consuming food through a straw because you've been like your rib cage has been broken in and shit. You're just sitting there listening to this dude's mixtape, and it's just the sound of him whacking you in the chest. Oh god.
trigger warning. I'm so sorry. I think we should put a trigger warning.
Whoops, sorry, that got a bit graphic,
for
but
mentions of gore. But anyway, moving on. The like coming back to PHONK.
yeah,
So
serious
PHONK is not Memphis rap. PHONK is just inspired off of Memphis rap, and in fact, PHONK actually does not have any of those dark origins of. In fact, their PHONK is made by professional producers in
Yeah.
their professional chambers.
It's like
and
someone at
Huh?
Warner Bros. Music was like, "Hey, dude, check out this cool like rap thing I found on like I don't know archive.org." And then we called some producer into the room and asked him to like recreate this, but like with electronic elements. And then you had PHONK. And because I'm just saying this from what I've observed, I have not listened to the genre wholly, but I can.
No, but I see that can make sense. So like again in the TUV video, TUV again, he plays certain excerpts of Memphis rap in his videos, and like you'll see that it's so distorted that you can hardly make sense of the music. It's so like
Yeah.
it's very very poorly recorded.
Exactly.
So it's like unlike PHONK, where I think people might be using like professional digital audio workstations like Logic Pro or something. And the distortion that they have is not because of poor recording quality, but rather because
It's an
of
aesthetic.
Actually,
is what it
yeah,
is.
like as an aesthetic, yeah.
It's the Instagram version of it.
And speaking of the aesthetic and what goes behind this aesthetic, the genre deploys distorting techniques such as chopped and screwed to create a darker sound. Well, I'm not the producer here, so could you explain, as if I'm 5 years old, what chopped and screwed means?
Basically, if you imagine your vocal was an onion, okay, and then
Okay.
you had this big fat knife,
Okay.
okay, it's just that's it. You're chopping up the vocal, you add some distortion to it, and then you put it back in the track. Vocal chopping is not unique to not Memphis. It's not unique to funk music, but it is a very like popular like editing technique used in a lot of mainstream dance stuff, electronic music, and I feel like it's just like you mentioned, a lot of that distortion is just used here, but that's the thing I don't get. See, I can understand the influence in terms of, okay, this is cool, this is all distorted and it sounds very poorly produced, but like if you're trying to achieve that in post-production, it just sounds a bit forced. Like again, not to, these tracks are very very small, and they tend to be just very like repetitive and not, there's not really much progression. And
It is like a loop, yeah.
yeah,
Like
and
some
he
of
has-
them have a progression, but it's more on the rarity. I think more often than not, these tracks are more like a loop. And we will get to how this track is, like, you know, on what context these tracks are used, in which case you will see that the loop kind of makes sense. I don't know.
Honestly, if you ask
That's
me-
up to you. That's up to our listeners to decide. But
the quote unquote applications of this genre are actually quite hilarious.
yeah, we'll get to that. But
Really,
but for now, actually, that's a very good segue, because we are getting to. Let's see what Wikipedia says about this. Popularized by TikTok and the drift community in social media, drift phonk is a subgenre of phonk which emerged in Russia. Its main features are the use of cowbells and high bass. It's generally used in lo-fi videos showing drifting cars.
Okay, so when you say drift, I'm thinking of Tokyo, and I'm thinking of what's that song by Teriyaki Boys? Is it
Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift, the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
You
theme
said
song.
drift, you said Tokyo, you said Teriyaki Boys, and you forgot the name of the track.
Wait, is
which
it?
is Tokyo Drift.
Oh, the song is called. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I knew the band was Teriyaki Boys. I didn't know the song was called Tokyo Drift. Is that?
Okay. It is, dude. That's what makes this hilarious. But anyway,
I'd like to
carry on.
apologize to the drift community for not knowing this this obviously popular song.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess Tokyo Drift would also, like, on a sonic level, it does sound similar to funk tracks, but it's yeah, I don't know. I don't really have as much of opinions.
So
on
when you say
Tokyo Drift.
cowbells, I can hear cowbell. There's also cowbell in Tokyo Drift, but look, it's the thing is it's mixed differently. Like here, I'm glad you actually brought it up, because it's one thing I noticed. I went to YouTube before we logged on to record this, and I was like, okay, you know what? I went and I searched, okay, funk music playlist, and then I listened to like 5 or 6 songs, and then all of them had this one distinct, I wouldn't even call it a cowbell. It is some kind of percussion sound that's been distorted and tuned, and it kind of blends with like a synth, like a, you know, like a sawtooth synth, right? That you typically hear in like
Sawtooth?
dance music. Sawtooth. It's a very brash, you know, shrill sounding
Okay.
synth sound you can make, and it's like that combined with not a cowbell, but again a percussion, you know, a tuned percussion sound, and that seems to be across there, and it just it's very dark and distorted sounding, and I feel like, and even the album art for all of this was just like dark. It was either blood or like
Like
dark
it's
colors.
purple,
One of them was
black, dark stuff. I mean,
one of them was
or
straight
like,
up a it was like a horror image. It was just a girl with like this really like blood red eyes, and the image was kind of like 3D distorted and looked pretty scary. I'm like, do people listen to this? Like, is this because the some part of me felt like some of the tempo of the song was like a good 125 BPM, which makes it like the equivalent of like I feel like this is, it's somewhere somebody is listening to funk music as workout music. Am I is that a fair assumption?
that is more than just an assumption. I know of people, and yes, it is not just used as workout music by people, but it's also like in the TikTok or YouTube shorts or Instagram reels or whatever. You will like find, like, you know, bodybuilders and stuff. They would, like, you know, if they're showing some impressive feat that they have achieved through years of or months or whatever, like years of training, then they will do it in like this cinematic slow motion way perhaps, and at that time the music in the background is, you guessed it, funk.
I find that very confusing. On the one hand, you have a horror themed genre. It's based on like gangster violence, and then since you mentioned this, like I think we were talking about this, how funk as a genre is just like so. Is correct to say hyper masculine or very masculine at least?
Yes.
Like
yes.
you mentioned TikTok,
Yes.
and I'm just thinking about this. Even YouTube Shorts and Instagram, you just see these videos of like, you'll have a picture
Sigma
of
male, grindset, grind
yeah.
trillionaire. Yeah. You'll find funk in those
It's
spaces
just some
too.
dude. It's some dude at a library telling people to shut up. because
Oh yes. That guy looked like Nobita to me. I mean, okay, that comes across as racist. I mean, because that guy was Japanese and
Robin.
was wearing a specs. But come on, dude. Like the hairstyle, the specs, even the yeah.
it
I'm so
reminded you.
sorry.
Okay, so
I
so
just-
it's a TikTok video of Nobita from Doraemon
circular glasses.
telling-
That too. I mean, like Nobita wears circular glasses.
just telling
I
people
guess
in-
I'm making this
like
worse.
in a library to shut up. Whoever it
No,
is.
he says this is a library. This is a library. That's what he
And
says.
then like this music is playing in the background. It's just like Sigma
Yeah.
grindset, and it's a
I
very
think the music that plays in the background for that video, if I'm not wrong, is Polo Zeni.
I don't
Which is
know
a Russian track again. And there are a lot of Russian tracks in the funk genre.
Mother Russia. I can't.
Yeah.
It's-
Although, I don't know if... I mean, it has the similar... Like, it has a similar effect. But interestingly, till date, I have not seen Polo Zeni mentioned under funk. So, I'm not too sure if it... But
Okay,
what do you think? At least sonically speaking, did Polo Zeni or basically whatever the track was?
I don't remember. This is a while back, so I don't remember the song. But like, I can relate it with other funks. Like, same videos.
Yeah, same.
you
I could like, I got the same vibe. And to be very honest, I'm still not too sure if this genre is as solidified in terms of like, you know, this is what funk is and this is what it is. This is what funk is not, because like, you know, even in the playlist that I did here, there were a lot of variations. Like there were some tracks. I'll actually name this track. It's called God's Revenge by Ferix, Ferrix. That track, it sounded like EDM and funk had a baby, because it did not have the same kind of violent intensity that funk did, because that was tempered down a little bit by EDM, but then at the same time it was not it still had those dark elements, but like, you know, it was because it was not as bright sounding as EDMs. Like there were like these choir like sounds going on and like some whisper like rapping going on in places alongside those EDM beats, and some darker chords being used instead of the peppy bright chords that
Yeah. No, I
so,
mean,
yeah.
no, that makes sense. I mean,
So that was like one example, whereas then there are some other tracks which are like full scale, like, you know, how you were describing it, like with distortions, high bass, and like, you know, some rap going on, but like in general, in like my experience of listening to this track, I still felt that a lot is happening rhythmically. That side chaining thing you mentioned, where like the volume goes on and off. I don't know if that's the same thing that I heard even in some of the funk tracks here. It was like like, you know, the synths will play and then it will mute, then it will play again, then it will mute, something like that. Like it's I don't know if it's the same thing as side chaining or if it's something else, but that effect.
So I didn't notice any side chaining. Again, just a reminder for anyone that doesn't know what side chaining is. It's essentially where you automate the volume, so that way, you in like a bar of music, you have like 4 counts, like 1, 2, 3, 4, but you can also read that as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so.
Okay, maybe it was not side chaining. I'll tell you what it's more similar to. It was similar to, so there are these electric guitars which have this thing known as kill switch, where like you can just with a flick of a switch you can basically stop the current that is passing onto your guitar, and so it's kind of like, so it's kind of like, you know, you're playing the guitar and then you can flick that. Not even a switch, it's a button. So like you press that button to stop the current from going into the guitar, and your guitar basically it doesn't sound like anything, because the amp,
it cuts off.
your guitar, like, you know, you've stopped that electric flow. So like the guitar signals are not going to the amp anymore. So it's like basically people press that button, like tap it very fast. So it's like guitar sound, amp is sounding, then there is mute, then it's sounding, then it's mute, and they do it very fast.
That's kind of, I guess, the same. That's the same as side chaining. Yeah, like you.
Oh, so that is side chaining, right?
I don't know if it's. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, so I can't tell you if it is side chaining, but it sounds a lot like it. You cut off the current supply to guitar. That means it essentially turns it off and the volume drops, right? So it's the same. Right. It's kind of, I guess, the same outcome, but regardless, I don't think I heard side chaining in
Then
this music.
then moving on, like to get slightly less technical with this is
Yeah.
I mean there were some tracks which were more melodic than the others. Most of these tracks were loop like, which is again what
Yeah,
Aditya had
it's
discussed
just
earlier.
most of it was just loops, like the same thing again.
Yeah.
And the tracks themselves are usually like I've 2 minutes. Yeah, I've heard funk songs from whatever I listen to that are like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a genre where there's a lot of, you know, it doesn't. I'm not gonna say full fledged, but like it just doesn't seem very elaborate. Like it's just one sound, one vibe that you're capturing in whatever time, and that's just it. Like I mean, you pick a genre and you pick songs knowing what you're getting into, but I feel like that really applies to funk. Like if you're in the mood for something dark, or in the mood
It
for
is.
some
It is.
kind of
That in fact, I think that's a good segue to how I felt about it when I was listening to it, like on a subjective level. Now, I again, you can take this with a pinch of salt because this is my personal experience and not necessarily applicable to everyone. But it's something like, so. Again, I mentioned at the earlier part of this episode that I had listened to this playlist for like some time, like for a prolonged period of time, and I was like walking, and I don't know, it's like after maybe like 20 minutes 25 minutes of listening, I felt, or maybe even earlier than that, I started feeling slightly less inhibited. Okay, so it's kind of like,
inhibited.
I don't know,
Like,
in the sense of like, I don't know, it started with like this like I don't know, you feel a little more aggressive, your thoughts get a little morbid. In fact,
okay.
it was weird because honestly, again, trigger warning, I don't think I've ever discussed this with you as well, but I've always wondered, I always had this weird fear, and it's not like a fear, but like, you know, like a passing thought that what if I lose my fingers? I'm a guitarist. I really love playing the guitar, and I'm a fingerstyle guitarist on top of that. And I mean, fingers are these delicate parts of your body, and like, you know, you can lose them in a freak accident, and then what? What will I do? You know, like these thoughts started to. So these are one few of the morbid thoughts that started coming in my head when I listen to it. On the other hand, like there was this whole thing of, okay, there's this weird like kind of disinhibited energy, like I felt like I could, like, I don't know, like I felt like my pain tolerance has increased drastically, like you know, I can, like, let's say, go to the, and I think that's why people at the gym also use this, that I felt that, like, you know, I'm really not a physical person in the sense of I don't like physical workout sports in general, or in general I just don't like engaging with these things. No offense to those who do, it's just a me thing, honestly.
Totally offense taken.
Dude, you're not helping. Anyway,
Sorry.
I just felt like, you know, maybe like 30 minutes into listening to it, that, you know what, my pain tolerance has increased to the extent that I can do all of those things. Like, you know, I'm cool with, like, I don't know, punching a punching bag, or like, you know, taking up like rigid exercise, even if it like sort of hurts my muscles or something. And I don't know if this is what people feel like. If this is what a universal experience of listening to funk music for slightly prolonged periods is, then I can see why people who are, like, you know, lifting heavy weights would like this weird painkiller. It actually made me reflect on how music can actually lead to certain specific sensations.
Wow.
And it also made me reflect on whether funk producers who are actually producing these tracks, are they aware of like, you know, what physiological effects people have when they listen to it. Now, these inferences are again all on the basis of my personal experience. So again, like I mentioned earlier, take this with a pinch of salt. And again, them relating this with drifting, highly modified cars, reckless behavior, violent stuff. I'm
Wow,
not. I'm
okay.
not saying. I'm not. Again, I'm not saying like or hinting or like even like sort of saying this in an indirect way that this is problematic in any way, because that's the same thing as saying that violent games are problematic. So no, absolutely not. I'm not of the opinion that violent games are
Yeah,
problematic.
yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, I am
That's
of the
been
opinion
debunked
that
also. Yeah.
people need outlets, and it's good that like there are
Oh, okay.
outlets available. There are outlets available where like you're not harming any other person. So uh, honestly, if funk music is like sort of serving that purpose for some people, then that's a very good thing. I don't see anything wrong with that, but I do still want to sort of, at least according to my experience, I did feel disinhibited. I felt like my morbid thoughts were increasing. I felt like this weird energy in my head, like like I could, like my pain tolerance has increased and I could like do stuff.
Wow.
And by do stuff I don't mean like hurt other people. I just meant like I can take pain, like sort of I would probably not. In fact, okay, here's another trigger warning again, I'm so sorry. So while I was walking in this neighborhood which had like a lot of these dog posters on them. Beware of dog, beware of this dog, beware of that dog. And the gates were kind of on like low, so I was scared, in the not scared but rather just
You were cautious,
aware,
yeah.
conscious that like these gates are low. So like if let's say if there are these ferocious dogs like rottweilers or doberman or something, I don't know, again I don't want to stigmatize these breeds. Well trained ones are adorable, but like let's say if there are these hostile ones, and like they are able to easily jump through the gate and like sort of attack me. And like because I was listening to funk music at the time, those morbid thoughts sort of increased again, to the point where I was like sort of imagining their teeth like sort of uh, bearing through my skin, and like there being a lot of blood, and like sort of me being taken to a hospital or something. I don't know why. It's like my mind was making stories, morbid stories,
So,
out of stuff.
if I
Yeah.
understand this correctly, you're basically saying that you felt like you felt a lot more, yeah, uninhibited or a lot less restricted. So,
Yes,
it
even
was
in my thoughts, my
it was
thoughts were getting more morbid and violent, which
this is
is
actually interesting. So, of course, I have not listened to this genre enough to be able to sort of have that
yeah,
deep level
this must have been a good
connection.
30 minutes of listening
Yeah.
into it, and 30 minutes of continuous listening, okay? And
Honestly,
like
I
it's a
can't.
loud distorted genre, and like the melody in there is dark. So yeah.
I'm actually
I
curious
mean,
now. Like, if anyone in the audience has listens to funk music, or has listened to funk music, and like has any like a specific experience that's similar, either similar or like the opposite of what Robin has had, then like do let us know as well. This is actually really interesting. I mean, Robin, of course, you're a student of psychology, so I mean that level of introspection I could never have had, but I
in fact, speaking of psychology, it kind of reminded me of getting a little Freudian here. There's this thing known as death instinct. So like all of us have a life instinct and a death instinct, and death instinct refers to the more destructive impulses that we hold, the destructive drives to like sort of harm ourselves sometimes, and I think like in a simple way, like I think that funk activates your death instinct a little bit.
Damn,
But then
that's
again,
deep.
this is just a personal experience. Take it with a pinch of salt. So
The views expressed by Robin James are not. Never mind.
yes. Please do that. Please do that. Please do that. We need it at this point. At this point, I think we do need it.
Yes. The rules.
Definition of death instinct: an innate and unconscious tendency towards self-destruction, postulated in psychoanalytic theory to explain aggressive and destructive behavior,
Dude.
not satisfactorily explained by the pleasure principle, also called Thanatos. So it kind of reminds me of Thanos. This is from the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Robin, it is 11 p.m. I'm not following. But yeah,
I'm
no,
so sorry.
I think that's a great note to also end on. I think I know. So I've always looked at this genre from the outside. I've never quite understood where it gets its vibe from. I mean, other than Memphis rap, of course, but yeah, this is actually an interesting like experience. Maybe I should just sit down and play this. I mean, I have heard songs from this playlist while I was like cleaning my room, and again, I didn't really understand it. Maybe if I pay more attention or I spend a bit more time, it'll kind of all blend in the way you're talking. I mean, not necessarily, the emotional, the emotional feeling of wanting to, of thinking more morbidly, but maybe something, on the lines of feeling more enabled or not empowered. Like that I can
I
understand
think
because
that's the more common experience.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. In
I
fact,
can see this.
towards the end of my listening session, I was like, I was feeling, I was exhausted. I felt drained, and then like I had to switch. I had to like I switched to again like some happy sounding music. So I switched to JVKE. I think he's blowing up quite a bit now for his track called Golden Hour. You may have seen a lot of his shorts coming up. But like Golden Hour is not the track I listen to, but like I was just referring to the artist because he makes some happy sounding songs. So I needed that not all of his songs are happy sounding, but you get the picture.
Yeah.
So I needed that vibe change to sort of reacclimatize my mind to feeling a little less exhausted from all that.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really really cool. I'm actually very inclined to check this out a bit more because again,
We should link that PHONK playlist.
maybe we can do that. We're doing free promotion on this.
Let the
on this
listeners
podcast.
decide.
But yeah, I think on that note, do let us know if you've listened to funk music. Like that'll be interesting to know like what your experience has been. And I don't know. I think it'll be curious to know if this experience is common or if maybe it's just like it's a very subjective thing like Robin mentioned. On that note, thanks for tuning into the first episode of Project Khichdi.
Thank you.
This has been a fun little conversation. Stay tuned. We hope to see you next time.
Signing off. Stay tuned.
Yeah.